Sundaramukam Tamraravindekshana Bhaktabhishtavarabhayapradakaram Kaupinamotrojvalam Swatmanandarasanubhutivivasham Sarvanavadyangakam Shrimantam Shri Ramaneshwaram Guruvaram Yogasanadhyasitam Dhyayet Shri Ramaneshwaram Dhyayet Shri Ramaneshwaram Dhyayet Shri Ramaneshwaram Hrudaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahmamatram Yahamahmiti Sakshat Atmarupena Bhati Hrudi Vishamanasa Swam Chimbatamatchatavar Pavana Chalana Rodhat Atmanishto Bhavatvam. Namo Ramana. We'll start the Friday's Atma Vichara session by listening to Bhagavan's Upadesham and meditate upon it, and then have a 20 minutes Atma Vichara. We will be reading Bhagavan's Upadesham from the book Ramana Answers, Self-Enquiry 1900 to 1950, a compilation of all the answers given by Bhagavan on Atma Vicharam by our founder, President Sri A.R. Natarajanji. After meditating on the Upadesham, we will have a 20 minutes Atma Vichara session, and then our President Sharda Akka would be talking about Atma Vichara as it has been contemplated in Ramana Gita, and then finally we will have the concluding prayers to Bhagavan. We have been looking after the question answers from the section 1936 to 1950, and last couple of weeks we are discussing about a series of questions that has been put by a devotee. For the convenience, I will read from the first question and meditate upon this week's question answer. The devotee asked, "Please tell me the way." Bhagavan replied, "Is it necessary to show the way in the interiors of your own home? This is within you." Then the devotee said, "What do you advise me to do?" Bhagavan replied, "Why should you do anything? Only keep quiet. Why not do so? Each one must do according to his own state." Devotee: "I see the absurdity, but I speak from the physical plane." Bhagavan: "You say I. Who is that I? If that is found, you can later see whose is the illusion. You say you are in the physical plane now. In which plane are you in dreamless sleep? Devotee, yes, but I did not function then. So then, you existed in deep sleep. You are the same one who continues to exist, are you not? Devotee, yes, Maharshi, with this difference that you did not function in your sleep, rather, you are associated with the thinking faculty in your waking state and you are disassociated from it in sleep. Is it not so? Devotee, yes. Here, Bhagavan is bringing our attention to our daily experience that we continue to exist whether it is our waking, dream or sleep. And not only that, all the things that we experience in the waking state, which is the body, the thinking mind, the intellect which wants to question everything, the world that we perceive apart from us, even though all of this is completely absent in the deep sleep state, we continue to exist, even though this thinking and questioning mind and intellect is totally absent. We are there to perceive its absence. So Bhagavan is asking us that our nature is nothing but existence. Last week, we looked at how we being the pure existence, by superimposing the idea of I am the body, I am the thinker, I am having a mind, I am in this world, I have this name and form, in the traditional sense, that superimposing of the snake on the rope, how we unnecessarily get bewildered by all the things that we superimpose and take it to be real. Bhagavan is continuing to emphasize that by showing that this entire superimposition which we think in the waking state is very, very important, very much a need, is going on to reveal that in our natural state as being pure existence and in deep sleep, that alone we are, where we see that there is no world, no mind, no thinking, and we were very much okay with complete absence of this superimposition. And that has been our daily experience. So he is bringing home to us that even in the waking state, we can do away with all these superimpositions. And in fact, it is the superimposition which makes us more bewildered. It is taking this superimposition to be oneself is the source of the root problem. In Tattva Bodhini, Kameshwarji very beautifully brings out this fact. Though in sleep there is ignorance, in the sense, even though we are existing in sleep, we don't wake up with that knowledge that we are pure existence. There is a sort of ignorance to which we keep attending. We are still outward turned. Therefore, we say there was no world, there is no ego, there was no mind, because we are still outward turned and not attending, not recognizing that we exist in the sleep. Because we do so, in the deep sleep, even though there is ignorance present in the deep sleep, one thing we have to recognize, the ignorance did not disturb us in the deep sleep. So it is not more so the ignorance that causes the disturbance. It is to taking that ignorance as oneself, as we do in the waking state, which is the real source of all of our disturbance. So this is the thing that we need to pay attention to. Why do I take this name and form to be me? Every moment we take this directly or indirectly. Indirectly, when I hold on to a thought, think that thought is very important for me to attend to. If we question to whom is this thought and who am I, we see that we are holding on to this idea that I am the body, and that I am this name and form, and this thought is important for me. In innumerable ways, whenever we see somebody as a body, we hold on to ourselves also as an individual with a body. In innumerable conscious and unconscious way, we are holding on to this wrong superimposition of ourselves to be this body and mind, and take it, this superimposition, to be me. That is the root cause of our problem, not ignorance at all itself, but it is this superimposition and holding on to that superimposition as oneself is the root cause. This Bhagavan, by making us repeatedly inquire, whom is this thought? Who am I? Brings our attention that repeatedly how we get identified with this I, and then from as the thinker to the thought to all of these different divisions that get created by it. Bhagavan, by making us turn inward from the division which has appeared in the form of a thought, back to the thinker, the foremost of the division, and further by asking who am I, showing that this superimposition that we do, and to take the thinker as oneself, how much of a bewilderment, how much of the lapse of peace or happiness is happening repeatedly. This is what the self-enquiry brings it to us. And all Bhagavan says is, whether you hold on to enquiry and let go this superimposition as oneself, or recognize that there is absolutely no superimposition that happened upon you at all. Because in the deep sleep, I am least concerned about all the superimpositions I had in the waking. By recognizing our natural state here and now to be actually free, and all of this is nothing but an imaginary idea which we hold on to be ourselves. This recognition is what Bhagavan makes us recognize and be completely alert to it. Tasmat Jagrata Jagrata, says the Upanishad. If we can be aware, become clear how different ways this superimposition is, this Vesha we take on. That's why Bhagavan says, Veshahanata Swatma Darshanam, Isha Darshanam Swatma Rupatha. So it is important, this Vesha that we immediately so eagerly put upon without even inquiring, as though this is very important for us and without which I am not going to get happiness, or it is only through this that I will gain the happiness. Even when we come to a spiritual sadhana, we put on the Vesha and listen. We put on the Vesha and contemplate. We put on the Vesha and do even the Nididhyasana. So it is this Vesha that we have to let go, says Bhagavan. And therefore he is the sweet person that he is, the Guru that he is showing us that this Veshahanata did not bewilder us in deep sleep. So why are you so worried about it in the waking state? So it is this holding on to this thinking faculty, and through that thinking faculty, holding on to this superimposition of name and form, Bhagavan is saying that all this, what is the way, how to do the sadhana, all of these questions again become very, very real. Again, will demand us to do something, to find, to understand. However, the moment we understand that by attaching this as our oneself, we are attaching to all the divisions as real, and therefore we feel that we have to do something, know something, get something, achieve something which we are not today. That whole idea is an illusion. If we can disassociate it like in the sleep, if we can have the Veshahanata here and now, we see that we are the pure existence, the pure presence that we are, undisturbed by anything. All of this was only an imaginary, unreal belief. And therefore, when we let go that and remain as we are, here and now, then we find ourselves, our nature, to be nothing other than Satchidananda, pure existence, consciousness, bliss. This is what Bhagavan brings us through Atma Vichara. With the immense grace of Bhagavan, with which alone we have come to this most direct path, which reveals our nature every time when the path is no different from the final experience. It is just that our strong belief in ourselves, in this Vesha, makes us to take this path again and again until by His grace it comes home that this superimposition is the root cause of all my problems. By His grace, we gain the strength to be free of all this superimposition. With the calling upon that immense grace which alone is, for the next 20 minutes, let us do Atma Vichara. Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. Ramana, over to Shadaka.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. The immense grace of the self manifests as Ramana in this part of the section of the satsang. In this part of the satsang, we are meditating on the verses of Ramana Gita, which is a Sanskrit compilation by Ganapati Muni of questions and answers between devotees and Bhagavan, the dialogues between Bhagavan and several devotees. These have been recorded in verse form in Sanskrit by Ganapati Muni, just as in later years we find that Muruganar Swami has recorded Bhagavan's teachings in poetic form in Tamil, but not in the question-answer form, in just the answers of Bhagavan. Here we find it in question-answer form, similar to the Bhagavad Gita, and similar to the Bhagavad Gita, the Ramana Gita also has 18 chapters. So this is chapter 7, which we are meditating on, and the 7th chapter is on the subject of Atma Vichara, which is actually the core topic of our satsang. And here in the previous verses, we found that the devotee, Karshni, he has asked Bhagavan that if one is ready for the performance, for the practice of self-enquiry, should one spend any time whatsoever in other practices like snana, sandhya, japa, homa, even swadhyaya, deva puja, sankirtana, tirthayatra, yajna, dana, vrata, etc. He says. So there are many things which we do. Now, Bhagavan says it's all right. You can engage in them when your attachment is just beginning to wane. It's not fully gone. Why? Because we found that if we are not giving all the 24 hours to self-enquiry, what are we doing in the remaining time is the moot question. And to prevent our further wasting that time in which we are not engaging in self-enquiry or getting into negative experiences in that time, it is far better to engage ourselves in all these kind of activities. I read in some poster that the lowest kind of people talk about people, then slightly higher kind of people, they talk about ideas, then even the higher kind of people, they talk about vast concepts like the world, etc. But all that also would be in the realm of concepts. So it is best to do self-enquiry. And what is the support for self-enquiry? Everything else must be supportive of our self-enquiry. That is the important message which Bhagavan is giving us for here. If I am doing self-enquiry and I am indulging in some negative activity, that would be counterproductive. Instead, if I engage in good activities of whichever kind we choose, if we engage in good activities, it prevents that other thoughts from coming in at that time which are negative in nature. So what is the difference between a positive thought and a negative thought? See, a negative thought is disturbing. There is no doubt about that. For all of us, we know that a negative thought is disturbing. And why does it disturb us? It has a greater grip over us than a positive thought. It's a very ironical situation. But there is a poem where I think he's a 17th century poet. He says that it's a poem which is called To His Coy Mistress. He tells his mistress, he tells his beloved, now I am going away somewhere. Don't feel worried, don't feel bad, don't feel anxious, because whatever you feel, if you feel anxious, that is the energy that you will be putting into my journey and my work. And you and I being so close to each other, whatever you feel, it will have an impact on my experiences. So don't think badly, don't give room to negative thinking. And in that he says when we experience good things, we don't hold the experiences so firmly. But these lines he says, but come bad chance. Bad chance means bad times. We add to it our strength, he says. See, we have heard in the Ramayana that Vali would get half the strength of his opponent also. So he would always be stronger than the opponent, no matter who that was. Even if it is Sri Ramachandra fighting with him face to face, Vali would get half of his strength. But here he says, we give our sorrow our strength. We add to it our strength. We give it life. We give it life and length. We make it last and last and last by going back to it, ruminating on it, thinking again and again about it. So we give it life and length, and then what do we allow it to do? Itself over us to advance. Itself over us to advance. We make it greater than we are. Our sorrow becomes so great, it becomes so powerful that even we are later not able to get rid of those sorrowful thoughts. So that is what we do with negative thoughts. We give them far more energy than we give with positive thoughts. We give to positive thoughts. Therefore, Bhagavan says, indulge in positive thoughts. At the beginning, when your detachment is still only waning, the complete detachment is not there, at that time, engage in good activities by all means, says Bhagavan, because to prevent a negative thought from arising. Of course, if we ask for whom is this thought, then automatically it will take us to its source. But sometimes, as we said, we do not have the strength. Dheeramillahathil thedi undanayan thirumbavutrain arul arunachala, says Bhagavan on our behalf, to say that sometimes we do not have the necessary determination to hold on to the inquiry. So we drop the inquiry. If we drop the inquiry, what are we supposed to do with that time when we are not practicing self-enquiry? We can engage in any of these good activities, says Bhagavan. But why do the jnanis engage in any activities? He says, Atyanta Shuddha Manasam Pakvanam Adhikarinam Idam Lokopakaraya Karma Jalam Bhavishyati. They allow themselves to be ensnared by karma, by the trap of karma. Karma Jalam Bhavishyati. They get into the trap of karma. Why? In order to help the world, in order to bless the world. Idam lokopakaraya. And what is the nature of their mind? Atyanta shuddha manasa. The nature of their mind is totally pure. So, when the mind becomes pure through self-enquiry, even then we may continue to perform actions or we may not do it, says Bhagavan, because he says some of the good acts which these people engage in is paresham upadeshaya kshemaya cha manishinaha. In order to initiate others into the path, upadesha, in order to give upadesha, or of course to just spread the fragrance of their being. By that itself, loka upakara happens, says Bhagavan. The greatest good comes to the world when one abides in the self. But here he says, kshemaya cha manishinaha, for the good welfare of all mankind. Pakvascha karma kurvanti. The great ones engage in action. Bhayanna desha shastrataha. Pareshamupadeshaya kshemaya cha manishinaha. Pakvascha karma kurvanti bhayanna desha shastrataha. Not out of fear. See, most of our actions, if we look, he says here, the great ones do not act because of fear. Why do we act? Our actions are purely based on fear. In fact, even Paul Brenton has asked Bhagavan, if I stop thinking, will I become an idiot? So, thought is the primary action. It is a mental action. Why is it that we are unable to remain without thought? There may be several reasons for it, but the primary reason is fear. Bhaya, desha, shastra, says Bhagavan. Fear of desha, fear of shastra. Fear of desha is, what will other people think? What will people think of me? What will so and so say? What will A say? What will B say? What will X say about what I have done, about my course of action? So that is bhaya of the desha and bhaya of shastra. What is shastra? It is the learning. It is the understanding. So injunctions are there. If we do not do this, we would end up in difficulty. So those are the rules. For fear of breaking rules. Any kind of rule. Of course, Shastra means they refer to the Upanishads and the Veda. But fear of breaking any rule is always there in us. This is the reason why we hesitate to go beyond a point in our inquiry. We are not able to keep up the action of self-enquiry because of the fear that we have. We fear that we will lose our identity. We fear that we will lose out on the relationships that we have, the near and dear ones. Maybe we will lose out. We will lose out on any of our desires. This is our fear. So Bhagavan says that one who is abiding in the self does not act out of fear, but acts out of the spontaneous blessing. What is that blessing? The blessing of his being and also the activities which will spring forth automatically from the self. So, this is the fruit of self inquiry in a way which Bhagavan is revealing to us over here. He says he calls it the automatic divine action. Actions will happen automatically. They will fall into place automatically. Time, place, everything will fall into place automatically. So there will be no fear. Pakvascha karma kurvanti. And why is Bhagavan saying this? Because he is pointing out that no matter what we do, our actions have a motive behind them. Without motive, we do not perform any actions. But the Pakvi does not have any motive whatsoever. If at all the Pakvi has a motive, we can say it is for the good, the highest good of all the people. Kshemaya cha manishinaha. So this reminds us of the very famous Bhagavad Gita verse. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkatam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami uge uge. So in this way, Bhagavan is also saying, Paresham upadeshaya kshemaya cha manishinaha. We can understand why Bhagavan remained in the body for 54 years after his enlightenment, and though there was no need for him to retain the body. In fact, the examples he gives during the last few days in that beautiful form, he says only the last few days, one feels like laying down the body the way a coolie wants to lay down the weight on his head. The coolie who is carrying the luggage of the passenger for the fee, no doubt, but who is carrying the luggage of the passenger, will he not wait for the moment when he can put it down? Similarly, the jnani would like to drop the body, not carry its burden further. Says Bhagavan, but we still find them engaging in activity. This is because they wish to bless all beings through their very presence. And of course, further we have got Upadesha like this, all because of Bhagavan's presence. So we can understand not only the exalted state of Bhagavan, but we can understand that if we slowly stop dropping our motives, the arambhas, the need to hold on to some movement, if we begin to drop that, we may get to that state. So that is what Bhagavan asks us to do in self-enquiry. He asks us to keep dropping the thoughts which are desire-based and fear-based. So if we drop it, then we get to that pakwa state where actions happen automatically. We do not have to put in any effort for that. Bhagavan is taking us towards that silence, that perfection, where there is no need, no further need, either for good things like Shastra or any fear. And we can remember his injunction already that the highest fruit has been attained through self-enquiry itself, the abidance being attained, nothing further needs to be done. And also he says that if one does not do any action, that's what he says next, it will not be of any disturbance to Atma Vichara. It will not disturb the flow of the Vichara. If one abstains from action in order to be pursuing self-enquiry, this is the greatness. Vichara pratikulani na punyani na rashava kriyamananya sangena bheda buddhim apamardina nachakatani papaya pakvasyatma vimarshinaha swavimarsho mahat punyam pavananam hi pavanam, says Bhagavan. There he said it is the highest good, the fruit of self-enquiry. Here he says it is mahat punya. Swavimarsho mahat punyam pavananam hi pavanam. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. Apara Satchit Sukavaridashe Yasyor Vimatram Bhuvanam Samastam Guhahitam Tam Ramanam Ghaviram Chinta Vihinam Hridi Chintayami Chinta Vihinam Hridi Chintayami.
Namo